Welcome to another edition of the Resilient Living Podcast, a show dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. All right, reporting for duty from my F-350 pickup truck on my work commute. Today is episode 47, and it's RV Living Buyer's Guide. Now, I'm trying to be useful this week because I keep drawing some blanks. It's been one of those weird ones for me, but I want to be useful for you guys, and I think a lot of people in this economy and all the weird stuff that's happening are going to have to resort to downsizing, which I think you should anyways. You want to save money, you want to get out of debt, you want to get rich, you want to save up money to buy a house, you need to simplify your life, and I can't think of which better way than to live in an RV. And a quick word, look at the price, people. I see so many people looking to get tiny houses and to build one with the lumber prices here in 2021, and even before that. The comparison is ridiculous. Most of those tiny houses are going to cost you on a low end anywhere from $60,000 to $70,000, and I think the walls and things like that are built a lot better, But a regular RV for stationary RV living is for a fraction of the cost. And I'll give you guys a hint here. I paid $12,000 for mine, and it was only like 5 years old. Granted, that's probably not the case nowadays. You guys are going to be spending a lot more. But look at the contrast in cost and price. Everything's already all equipped. You got a shower, you got a stove, oven, you have everything in your home just about already pre-built, all done and at a fraction of the cost. All right, so let's get into it. What are some of the things that you're going to want to do to before you buy one to inspect it? So the very first thing that I would ask, as is everything in life, needs maintenance. What maintenance has been done to this coach, this travel trailer, RV, whatever you guys want to call it? As with many things, there are a lot of stuff that can go bad. It's not like you just plug and play and let it go. I've learned that one the hard way. So yeah, ask about what kind of maintenance has been going on with that thing. The first one that comes up to my mind too is the registration. Is the registration current? Is the title clean? It's considered like a vehicle. It's a transfer of ownership for people who don't know. There's no realtor or nothing. You just go into the DMV, sign your name, and they pass it on over to you. So make sure that the registration's current, because if it wasn't paid many years, you're going to have to pay all of those years to own that coach, that travel trailer. The next one is what people call China bombs. Now, I didn't really know this one when I first started out years ago. And there's some off-brand names of tires that don't even exist anymore. I'd say the other thing is if the tires are over 10 years old, you want to inspect them. You want to inspect these tires for cracks on the sidewalls and things like that. Just because it hasn't been driven and they've been under shade doesn't mean anything. Tires after 10 years need to be replaced. Ask any professional. So that is something that's very, very much taken consideration. Also the brand. They call them China bombs because they're made from, probably China or somewhere else overseas. And they're not the best of quality. They're super, super cheap. There's a reason why maybe they replaced the old ones with some new tires that they got at, I have no idea, some little department store someplace that were like, $40 a tire. Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to make sure you have the right type of tires too. The tread. There are tires that are made specifically for trailers to hold all the weight. So make sure you educate yourself enough. I've given you guys the pointers. I can't go into full detail. There's a lot to it. I've only allotted so much time here. I think the very next one that I have on my list here is Polyv Tubing. Now this was used between the 70s and the 1990s. Polyv Tubing was a cool stuff that you can just drill holes in the walls and you can run stuff through. It's basically plumbing pipe and it's gray and you can just run stuff through. You don't even need to make pipe connections. You can kind of wind it, snake it basically, if you get my drift. Well, what's happening is like a lot of that Polyv got recalled and a lot of people stopped using it because it started to disconnect from any kind of joints where it meets up into the sink valve and stuff like that. So if you see a gray tubing in there, you're going to want to inspect that thing. If you see like a red and a blue or a white, anything other than gray, you should probably be okay. But I would still recommend that in any case, stay away from Polyv tubing, the gray stuff. But one of the things you're going to want to do is open up, say, the master bedroom, the bed, you want to look underneath the shower. There should be like a little access hole, and you want to get a light and shine it in there. Get underneath all the cabinetry, the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink. Check where all the connections are and look for stains both on the tabletop itself, the sink top. Get way behind the bowl and look at it, the bottom of the sink bowl, and also look down on the ground. Make sure you don't see any stains or anything like that. A lot of the chlorinated water too will show itself, like dripping down the pipes. If there's any watermarks on the pipes themselves. All right, next one I have is test all the electrical outlets. Now this could be a mess. When they build these things, there's some names I don't want to mention, but when they build these things, they just throw them together, man. They're stapling stuff everywhere, and sometimes wires get pressed into the flooring and stuff like that, even on brand new ones. And that's what causes a lot of problems. And the troubleshoot one is very difficult. I want you guys to understand that a RV is nothing like a home. A home is actually way easier to fix. You can bust out the drywall, re-drywall stuff up, you know, whereas a RV is built, like the floor is built first. Electrical is ran through the walls somewhat and everything. And there's just everything's kind of like the walls are put on like a cap. And then everything's pre-made, like the kitchen sinks and the cabinetry, and then it's all stapled into the wall. So that means that you can't just pull off a panel in most cases to fix like an electrical problem. You got to pull the sink out. You got to pull the cabinet out. You got to get all of these things out just to get to the paneling. So basically, you have to demo like half your trailer, maybe just to find out that one wire had a screw through it or something. Get yourself like a electrical device of any kind. You know, something that has a light on it, and go and plug in every single outlet and run that thing. Check the fuse box. Make sure the fuse box doesn't have any burn marks or anything around each one of the individual fuses. You want to make sure also, I don't have here on my notes, that there's a little motherboard, a little computer board. It has like a fan in it. And this is the converter, not the inverter like we have in solar panels. Converter is what actually controls all the electrical. It's the membrane, the main brains of the operations of your coach, your travel trailer. You want to make sure that the panel was off and it's not full of like dog hair, cat hair, lint, and things like that. If it's covered over, all the transistors and the electrical parts, they get heated up. And the fan, you can tell, is not doing its job because it'll make this lulling sound like a ram, 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 ram. It means it's too dirty, it's not freed up. So that's something that if the motherboard overheats, you're going to have to replace or get replaced yourself. I've done it myself. It's not really that hard, you know, shut off the electrical, but it is about anywhere from $300 to $800 for the motherboard. And it's just one less thing that you're going to have to take care of if you can find something that has been well maintained. So it should have been shot back and cleaned out and maintained. So yeah, electrical as far as maintenance, there's not much on the outlets and things except for the exterior, and we'll get to that. One of the biggest other ones is test the slide out, if it has a slide out. Push that thing, get to the lever, close that thing, open the thing, close the thing, open the thing. Do it fast, do it slow. Make sure, you know, don't sit there and break it playing with it like a kid. But really check it out, do it a few times and make sure everything's on the track. It's got like these little teeth, like a little sawtooth and a gear that when you press the button inside, it pushes the slide out or retracts it back in. Get underneath once it's retracted and take an inspection of that too. Make sure there's no rust, make sure there's no loose wires or things like that. Make sure maybe there's the grease, that maybe it's been lubricated with grease. No chipped teeth or things like that. All right, so our next one is batteries. Now, batteries only last 5 years. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people do. It's so simple. But for those of you who don't know, check the sticker. There should be a mark. It doesn't matter whether that battery was well maintained or not. Usually after about 5 years on a regular old car battery type, you know, you're going to have to replace the thing. And that goes for all batteries, from my knowledge, even the no maintenance batteries that are closed up. But usually people use marine batteries and stuff like that. Make sure the batteries it's not a big deal, you know, but if it's got a bunch of corrosion all over the terminals and things like that, you know, that means you're going to have to clean those all up. It's one more thing you're going to have to do. And a sign, I would say that these are common little things, you know, the battery. I can understand when people wouldn't clean the converter and things like that, grease up their pop-out slider gears and stuff like that, because those kind of things, little technical people don't, it's out of sight, out of mind. But the battery, if they haven't taken care of that battery, it's a good sign that they haven't taken care of the trailer. And it could be, if you're a savvy person and you're hearing all the things I'm sharing with you today, that gives you some buying power. So yeah, check the batteries out and check all the fittings, wiggle the terminals, make sure that the actual terminals, that's where you have this lead piece that wraps around the terminal of the battery. Make sure that there's no wiggle room, like where you'd have to reattach connectors onto each wire. Go down each wire wherever it connects and just kind of wiggle it a little bit. If it feels super loose and you can tug on it just lightly, and if it's moving, that means you're going to have to do some repair there as well. Next is the refrigerator freezer. If you can, have these people turn that trailer, that coach, that RV on a day in advance before you get there. That way you can tell if that freezer and refrigerator is working. Now this is going to be a big expense. I don't know how much they are now, but back in my day they were about nothing under $1,000. I'm betting they're probably up to like $2,000. That's if you could find one with the supply chain shortage. So, and definitely a tip here I would recommend if you're going to full-time RV live like I do, don't really use the fridge too much if you don't have to. I'm actually using mine right now, but go and get yourself a fridge that you can put outside if you have if you're full-time RV living, not stationary. I'm sorry, not driving around on the streets and stuff like that, you know, traveling around. That's going to be a pain in the butt. But yeah, do all that and check out that refrigerator, check out that freezer, and make sure there's no holes in the freezer. Sometimes, well, a lot of times those freezers will ice up and people have the tendency to want to go and start chipping the ice away instead of letting it thaw out. And I do have a hack for you guys. I'll go ahead and share with you guys after we get done with this here. Inspect the whole inside with a flashlight and look for chunks or scratches missing. If you do see them, that means that thing's been damaged and you don't want a leaky freezer leaking everywhere, you know, through the actual plastic or the cracks. One of the things you guys can do if you do start stationary RV living is to get yourself some plastic cutting boards or plastic in general. Line the whole, the side walls, the ceiling, the floor of the freezer, everything, because what's going to happen is the condensation of the ice is going to stick to the cutting boards, and when it comes time to defrost, all you have to do is pull all your food out of the freezer. This works for a home freezer as well. And then shake off all the ice into your sink, and then place the cutting boards back, throw all your food right back in, done deal. You don't have to sit there and let it de-thaw. The other thing I don't have on my notes here I'd like to let you guys know is make sure that motherboard, that electrical, the fuse box, I don't know why certain companies of RVs designed it where they have the electrical box right underneath the fridge. If something starts to leak, which I had, and I had sparks shooting out, it's water over electrical. I think we all could agree that that's not good. So that's a bad sign, a bad design. Get out of that one. I'd say don't even buy it if it has electrical right underneath. Now some of them have stuff tucked underneath. That's fine. The fridge compressor, or, you know, certain things like that. That's if it's way underneath and it's just the vent, that's okay. But if it's got like an electrical fuse box, no. I'd say no. All right, inspect all areas of ceiling and floor. You want to go inside of the cabinets, everything on the ceiling. Get yourself a flashlight and look for any water stains. Sometimes people like to paint stuff up, spray paint to get rid of any marks. You need to go in yourself with your finger or your hand and just kind of push on all corners and all seams, all the outer perimeter of the ceiling to make sure there's nothing soft. Don't push too hard, because if you break it, you know, they're probably going to want you to pay for it or something. But just feel it. You can press on it and like on a piece of cardboard, you know, you'll feel it all of a sudden just give out, be very soft. And in that area, you're going to want to climb on the roof and check that area as well for sealants. So yeah, on the floor, same thing. I told you guys about the water leaks as far as the pipe, the plumbing. Well, right by the bathtub and the toilet, I think, are the biggest ones. If anybody ever had a flood, that's most likely where it's going to happen. You're going to want to step really hard on that floor around that area to find out if the floor is delaminated or if the floor is actually rotted out. Now again, remember, these things are built floor first, the whole entire, like a hat, the walls and everything are set down and stapled in. If you had to replace the floor, most likely you're going to have to tear out some wall. If the floor is shot, I mean, unless you're really, really handy, the whole RV's shot. So when people are taking baths and showers and stuff like that, you know, it could be constantly leaking. And a lot of people don't know water is your enemy in an RV. Same thing in a mobile home. once it hits that particle board, just once or twice, it just like cancer, just starts rotting everything away. So very important. Check the ceilings, all the ceilings, in the cabinetry in the ceilings, everywhere that you can. All right, your holding tank for your black and gray water. Your black water is basically the poo water that goes for the toilet, and your gray water is the holding tank that makes your shower and your sinks. Now these are located underneath, usually towards the rear. They've got a valve that you can pull to empty them. You want to check the valve for cracks and everything, but more importantly, you want to get in there and check out those holding tanks. Now you see when the holding tanks are full of water and people are traveling, there's a lot of banging and a lot of swishing going around, and there's bolts that hold up these plastic tanks. So you can imagine if you ever filled up a 5-gallon bucket of water and you're holding it, that's pretty heavy. Can you imagine like 15, 20 gallons, 30, 40 gallons, right? And these things are held upside down with bolts holding it to the chassis, to the frame of the travel trailer or the RV, and as it's driving with everything switching out, puts a lot of stress, you could get cracks. So inspect that. I would say if you can, go and fill the thing up with water just to test it out and see if you can. Most likely, unless it's in a RV park, it's already hooked up to what do you call it, utilities, you're able to do that. But if not, then you got to kind of take your chances. Door hinges, another one. Let's take a look at open and close all the doors, especially the cabinetry. Again, a lot of these things are made out of particle board. So if people have children like I have, I don't know why I try to keep everything nice. It's impossible. They like to slam things, even girls. Sometimes I think girls are worse than boys. But anyways, that's not the point here today. Once these things break, the particle board, you can't really screw something in unless you move the hinge over. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. Mine's kind of nice, has some glass windows and stuff like that go on the cabinetry. And yeah, it's not an easy fix to go and have to buy another door, another door for your cabinets. But check all the drawers and things like that. Make sure none of them are falling apart. Yes, they can be repaired with some glue, staples, some finished nails and things like that, but definitely is going to make you some buying power. Those are the places where a lot of people don't pay attention. Also, the cabinetry, you want to grab it, and you don't want to just inspect it for from the hinges, actually the screws coming out. You want to move it up and down, straight up and down. Just wiggle it a little bit. If it's super loose and jarred, that means that nobody's ever tightened up the hinges. These hinges have these little screws on them, not to the wood itself, but right on the side they have these little hinges, little screw that'll actually brace everything together. And if somebody hasn't done that, again, when they're traveling, those things are clanking around, the metal could be worn out, and definitely something to take into consideration. Not a biggie, but yeah. Our next one is a biggie. It's the windows. You want to open and close all windows. Now, people have a tendency, even adults now, to be rough at this situation where they want to just jam the window open, right? And there could be a screw that got loose or some debris in the channel. Usually these are sliding windows that go sideways or up and down. Open and close all of them. Sometimes you'll find the framework will be bent or broken because people shoving on the window to get it up instead of cleaning it out. The window frame itself could be stripped. And usually these are made out of aluminum, and there's no replacing aluminum once it strips unless you weld it. So that's a biggie right there. Make sure all the windows open and close smoothly. You also want to check, the next one is your skylights. Check all your skylights for cracks. A lot of these skylights are these cheap, I don't know why they make them this way, but they're just glued in. It's one solid piece of plastic and usually just glued directly into the roof. You want to check around the sealant areas to make sure there's no cracks in those things. That could be a very costly repair work, even if you do it yourself. So that brings us to roof sealants. You're going to want to get up on that roof and you're going to want to check out all the roof sealants around all the penetrations, around where the antenna is, along where the stink pipe is for the toilet, any kind of the skylights and all those kind of things. Check for cracks. If they're cracked really bad, that means they're going to need to be cleaned, scraped, primered, and sealed. Go around the whole perimeter as well. Now, there's different types of roofs. There's little roofs where they put pieces of, like say metal or something like that. There's other parts where, or types of roofs where they'll get like an EPDM. It's like basically a pond liner type of roof, but it's white and it's like a skin, and they'll just lay the whole skin over the whole roof so there's no seams. That's actually the best one that you can get. If you can find a roof that has no seams, just that one skin from tail to head, that's going to be your best. Exterior fixtures, the same thing. You're going to want to bring yourself a little A-frame ladder, climb up, and I want you to wiggle the lights and things like that, the speakers, and I want you to inspect around them. Make sure that they're sealed. A lot of them don't have sealants around them. I put silicone on mine. They do have sealants behind them, but if they're super loose, there's a good chance that those things are leaking. And I've taken mine apart just to inspect after I purchased it. And sure enough, there was a leak that looked like it was happening for a long time. But it was just enough to just wet all the insulation. It didn't really wet the ceiling, especially when I did my inspection. So definitely something to take in consideration there. And if it is, check the walls where the fixtures are loose. Make sure, double check them again. Make sure on the inside, the interior, make sure there's no watermarks or things like that. You want to ask these people too. My next one here is if the water heater has ever been flushed. Now you want to flush your water heater every 6 months, no more than like every year. And if you're living, so these RVs, let me explain something to you. They're made for weekend warriors, really. I mean, you can live in them. A lot of my water heater, I've been living in my specific RV for about 4 years now, 5 years, I think. And the people I bought it from were living in it prior. So, I mean, 10 years, and the original fridge is still there. I had to replace the motherboard of the electrical, the converter, but same fridge. Had to change out the toilets and stuff like that. These are things that will not last forever, just like in your home. A good rule of thumb too for your fridge, I would say, and also your water heater, is that these things after 10 years are going to need to be replaced, especially if the water heater hasn't been maintenance. So it needs to be flushed with vinegar and water. Get all the calcium and the hard deposits. There's an anode, it's called, if memory serves me correctly. Yeah, an anode. It's basically this metal rod that goes in, and it's like a decoy. It collects all of the bad stuff, all the minerals and things. Stuff sticks to it, and you pull that thing out and replace it every 6 months to every year. I'd do everything 6 months if I were you guys. This is going to help preserve that water heater. Otherwise, the minerals are going to climb all over the walls of this thing and start eating away the metal and obstructing water flow and the heating elements. So, yeah, anode needs to be replaced. The last one I have for you guys, because I guess we're taking up too much time, which I knew we would, is the rubber treatment around the slide outs and stuff like that. You want to make sure that somebody has gone in and they do have this spray that they have that lubricates and that helps rehydrate the rubber, that seals everything around where the slide out comes in and out, where it meets the outer walls. Those things from sitting in the sun, stationary RV living, can wear out, and that's some costly money as well. So if somebody's done a lot of these maintenances and they can prove it, like show you and things like that, and the thing looks tip-top, I think you're going to be in great condition. If a lot of these things, the rubbers on the outside, the batteries, all the things I told you have not been done, I think you can open up some trouble. You can spend a couple $1,000s on repairs, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You have to outsource these things. I'd like to mention as well on your water heater, while we were on that subject, check for rust around all the sealants and stuff like that. Turn the water heater on. Turn everything. Turn all the lights on. Turn on the heater, the air conditioner, and things like that, and check to make sure everything's running tip-top. The air conditioner is not much, it's just stick in your hand to find out how fast it cools down. And the heater, listen to make sure it's running smoothly. I think with the heater as well, I would open up all the cabinetry and check all the ductwork. That's the hose that holds all the heat. Make sure there's no mice and rats that have eaten holes through it. And in fact, check everything under the fridge and stuff like that. Usually there's some Phillips head screws that are holding panels. Remove those panels, shine a light in there, and make sure that the thing hasn't been infested with mice and rats. They can come in and chew water lines, electric lines, and things like that. I can start adding just off the top of my head how much, all these different things for you guys. But I ran out of time. Guys, I really would appreciate it if I brought you guys any value, and only if I brought you guys value. Like and subscribe. Give me a review, help the show out to keep going. It's a lot of work to do these things, but most of all, I hope that it's helped you in any way, form, or fashion. Yep, it's going to be hard times, guys. I think the smartest thing that you guys can do is the stationary RV full time. There's RV parks all over the place. I think I'm going to do some more shows on this particular subject. But guys, for instance, I'm paying about $950 a month for my spot. And I know some of you are freaking out because back in Oregon, it's probably like $450. Even in Arizona, Texas, probably $350, you know. But this is in San Diego, California, one of the most expensive places to live. But let me put it in context to you guys this way. There are people, the medium rent here, even for an apartment, is close to $2,000, right? Even more. So I'm paying half. For a house, there's nothing really, just under $3,000 a month. That means I'm paying a third of what most people are paying. And I'm be able to run my business with shipping containers in the storage area and things like that. So yeah, it's quite good of a life. I would say not the best, but that's another video for another day. If you guys want to hear it, comment below. Let me know what you guys think and what you guys want to hear. So guys, as I always say, go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire and human up, my friends.